Hi students, welcome to this class of diabetes where we will be tackling the most important concepts that are asked undergraduate and that will help you tackle not only your classes, not only your theory question, not only your viva, but also every patient that will inadvertently land up in your chamber in future. Okay, now you must know that diabetes is the most important deadly epidemic disease that is spreading worldwide. Okay, it's not HIV, it's not COVID-19, but it is diabetes, mainly because of the lack of symptoms in many cases, mainly due to lack of compliance of patients to take medicines, knowing everything but still not applying to oneself, and the damage it can simply cause to the quality of life and ultimately the death of the patient. And most importantly, if you know how to treat diabetes, you will earn a lot in your chamber. Instead of referring that patient to an endocrinologist or diabetologist, no. If a patient of diabetes comes in your chamber, make it a point that you will never refer that patient to somebody else just because you don't know the medication, you don't know the insulin dose. You shouldn't do that, right? So let us first start by knowing the definition of diabetes. So who can tell me what is diabetes? Please. Right. So you are very right. Blood glucose level will increase from the threshold value. The important thing is you need to mention that threshold value in your answer. Okay. Now there are multiple. So of course all those threshold value will depend on the criteria. ठीक है ना? So the thing is, in case of all other diseases, the main deciding criteria is this. Who is the deciding criteria? Who? WHO, okay, World Health Organization. But for diabetes, the deciding criteria is them. ADA. They stand for American Diabetic Association. Okay, so all the criteria, all the diagnostic criteria of diabetes that we are going to discuss will be as per this ADA criteria. Very, very, very important. Examiner will ask you, okay, you are saying this value, is it written in your textbook? No, sir, it is the latest criteria as per American Diabetic Association. So if you mention ADA in your answer, you will be pardoned, even if your values doesn't match from textbook, because the values actually vary from textbook to textbook. So very important, ADA stands for American Diabetic Association criteria. Now according to them, there can be 3 classes of patients of diabetes. One of them definitely is normal patient who have got absolutely normal value of blood glucose. They don't need to worry, okay, with their present value. This is not guaranteed that if he or she continues a bad lifestyle, he or she will definitely land up in the next phase. And then ultimately the worst phase is diabetic. Okay, so the middle one is actually pre-diabetic phase. DIABETIC. Okay, my pathetic handwriting, you should be able to understand. So normal, pre-diabetic and diabetic. Okay, so we need to know what are the normal values. Now when, I hope you know by now, most of the time when you are asked to test blood glucose, either you or your friends or parents or relatives, whoever, you or they will be asked to give 2 blood glucose samples. Number 1 is fasting blood glucose sample, in which the patient needs to fast overnight or at least 8 hours, and then the blood sample is given absolutely at the morning before breakfast, before even he or she drinks a cup of tea. Then the next sample is known as PP or postprandial sample or after food. That is given 2 hours after food. Okay, so one is fasting blood glucose value, that is during fasting after 8 hours of overnight fasting, and one sample is patient. Now patient will be asked to have normal meal, normal regular meal. Okay, not that you patient, see, there may be various classes of patients, so you need to specify them. You should have a normal meal, not that patient goes home and eats 30 rasgullas and comes and gives blood, then his blood glucose value will be too high. So that will be misleading. So normal, after the normal meal, the patient's blood glucose level is taken 2 hours following the end of the meal. So what will happen? Now we have got two different values. One is fasting FBG and another is PP or PPBG. Remember, misnomer, layman will say sugar. Sugar is absolutely misnomer, because you know from your carbohydrate chemistry that glucose, not only glucose, sugar consists of all other monosaccharides. It means it can be fructose, it can be galactose, so on and so forth, but they do not contribute to diabetes. Our main focus of interest is glucose. So even many labs will tell you do sugar measurement, FBS and PPBS. No, our focus, the method that we use to test glucose. GOD, POD, glucose oxidase peroxidase method. I know you have already done that also. So fasting blood glucose FBG and PPBG. Okay. So the $1 million question, what is the normal value of blood glucose? Yes, many textbook will say many different values, many reports of many clinical lab will have many different normal ranges written in them. But you should always know the ADA criteria, which is 70 to 99. All the units are in milligram per deciliter, mg per dl. Alright, so 70 to 99 mg per dl, this is the normal fasting blood glucose value. Okay, and what is the normal PP blood glucose value? 70 to 139 mg per deciliter. So it means what? If the patient has got more than 100, it is not normal. Okay. Now I asked about diabetes. I asked about the definition of diabetes, in which you rightly told it is the disease in which the blood glucose value will be above the threshold value. What is the threshold value? In case of diabetes, the fasting value is more than equal to 126 mg per deciliter, okay, mg per dl, and in case of postprandial, the blood glucose level will be more than 200. So these are the two very important values that you should remember, okay, 126 and 200, because if you see patient's reports are above this one, there is no point of return. He or she needs to be prescribed medicines, be it injectable insulin or be it oral hypoglycemic agents or tablets. Patient cannot be sent home with simple lifestyle modification or dietary advice. So there is a window in between. So between normal and between diabetic, okay, this is the pre-diabetic window where most of the patients will be coming to the chamber. So what is the value? It's very easy to calculate now. It is 100 to 125 mg per dl, and it's in case of PPBG it is 140 to 199 mg per deciliter. Now I give you time, you can write this down. Okay, so I am giving you exactly 1 minute. Okay, so time starts now. So suppose examiner asks you what is the normal value of blood glucose. Okay, there are many students who will say, sir, it's below 100 and below 140. This is right, you are technically right regarding the upper limit, but what is the lower limit? Lower limit cannot be 0. Okay, so remember the lower limit is 70 and the lower limit is also 70 even for postprandial. This is the area where most student gets confused. They think that it is 70 to 100 or 99 in case of fasting and it is 100 to 140 in case of PP. Absolutely not. The value of PP blood glucose, the lower limit in case of normal individual is 70 mg per dl. Don't make this mistake in exam. Now, since the lower limit is 70, there is still some allowable limit. Okay, the allowable limit is the metabolic trigger below which all the hyperglycemic hormones will start acting, and that is actually 20. The 20 is the plus minus threshold. Okay, so 70 minus 20. So when the blood glucose goes below 50 mg per dl, we call it hypoglycemia. So remember, what is hypoglycemia? Fasting blood glucose level below 50 mg per dl, any, be it fasting or be it postprandial, since the lower limit of both of them are 70, blood glucose level below 50 mg per dl is known as hypoglycemia. And what is hyperglycemia? The definition of diabetes: more than 126 and more than equal to 200. So now you know both hypo and hyperglycemia, but you should know another term, that is glycated hemoglobin. Okay, there is another player who have been added to the ADA criteria recently compared to this fasting and PP, that is HbA1c. Okay, glycated hemoglobin. Right now, this is actually a chronic representation. It means what happens, you know, the normal hemoglobin, the normal RBC lifespan is around 120 days. Okay, so once hemoglobin is forming in the RBC, it will remain in the RBC for 120 days, then it will be shed to form other porphyria system, or it will be reused, the iron will be reused. Now, if there is a high blood glucose level, there will be non-enzymatic glycation. So, non-enzymatic glycation of hemoglobin residues will lead to production of HbA1c from normal hemoglobin. So, यहाँ पे क्या होता है? There will be non-enzymatic glycation. So, extremely high blood glucose level will lead to extremely high or high above normal HbA1c values. So, what is the normal HbA1c value? Generally, there is no pre-diabetic. Often you will see 5.7 is the pre-diabetic cutoff, but we don't consider that. For HbA1c, we consider diabetic or non-diabetic, and that value is 6.5 gram per dl. Very, very, very important. In your all units that you need to remember as a first year student, undergraduate student, there are majorly only 3 units that are in gram. Number 1 is total serum protein, albumin, those are in gram. Hemoglobin is in gram and HbA1c is in gram. Other than that, more or less everything is in mg per dl. Okay, so 6.5 gram per dl or gram percent is also the same thing, is the cutoff value for HbA1c. Now, very, very, very important concept. So, suppose a patient is diabetic, okay, his value of blood glucose is 130 fasting, okay, mg per deciliter, right? Now, he was supposed to give blood, right, after normal overnight fasting of 8 to 12 hours. The maximum limit is 12 hours, okay, but 8 hours fasting is actually fine for blood glucose level. However, something happened and the person actually skipped the dinner. It may so happen, okay, the person actually skipped the dinner. So, what was supposed to be above 126, due to the fact that person has skipped dinner, all the residual blood glucose that was supposed to be high has also been used up, and now the person has got a blood glucose of say 108 mg per dl. So, the diagnosis actually drastically changed. The person should have been stumped frank diabetic, now he has landed up in a pre-diabetic diagnosis. So, what is the harm in this? Okay, another situation can happen. Suppose a person was the blood glucose level was 189. Okay, it's higher normal, but still there is some point of return, but clear instruction was not given to him and he just went to a marriage ceremony and ate whatever he could, free fund, and then he went and gave blood less than 2 hours. Okay, what happens when you have something in your meal? The blood glucose level usually shoots up at the first hour and then it comes down at the second hour and then it continues to go down. So, the second hour is the time where it reaches a plateau. Therefore, we always say please give your blood glucose at second hour, because within the first hour blood glucose will continue to rise, and after the first hour the body insulins will take over and then a balance is reached. So, this at the end of 2 hours will give us a proper information about the picture, how body is sensitive to insulin. Okay. So suppose the person has eaten a lot, above his or her normal meal, and he has given blood sample in less than 2 hours time. So what was supposed to be 189 now has landed up in 256. I'm just giving an example. So now what the person should have normally been diagnosed as pre-diabetic is now diagnosed as frank diabetic, and the physician gives him or her multiple medicines, multiple insulin injection, and ultimately patient, when he returns to normal life, will end up in hypoglycemia, right? And in the above case, where he was supposed to be diagnosed as diabetic, he is now pre-diabetic, and the physician will give him relaxation, and then he will ultimately land up in complications of diabetes. So both of them are actually bad, right? So here comes the role of HbA1c, because this thing will not change in case of an acute, okay, change in diet or lifestyle. Anything acute means sudden, okay, in recent past, acute, okay, and anything chronic means long back, okay, it's since a long duration, so chronic, CHRONIC. So acute pain means suddenly I am having pain since 1 hour. Patient will complain, and you need to write your chief complaints when you go to ward history like that. Patient complains of acute pain in abdomen since last 30 minutes. Or patient is complaining a chronic pain in knee since last 3 weeks. Okay, so you need to make a boundary between acute and chronic. Which one is emergency? Suddenly what has happened and what is happening over course of time. HbA1c reflects a chronic high glycemic status. So if we will cross check, so remember, every time in your chamber, if or any relative or friend of yours, if brings his or her blood glucose level, please see and tell me what medicine should I take. Never give or prescribe any medicine without double confirmation and HbA1c report. So the patient who is actually having a high blood glucose level, the HbA1c has to be above 6.5. Definitely it will be 7, 8 or 9. Okay, and then you will know that there must have been some problem, and you need to recheck the fasting blood glucose level, maintaining the clinical conditions. And similarly in this case, the HbA1c will be less than 6.5. However, the PP blood glucose may appear very, very, very high. Okay, so बोलो क्या समझे? HbA1c क्यों important है? Anybody please take an initiative and explain. Others listen. Maybe last 2 or 3 days he has maintained a very good diet just to show his physician that his blood glucose level is normal. Okay, he can fool the machine, but he cannot fool the biological system. Therefore, HbA1c value is very, very, very essential to diagnose diabetes, right? Now, the thing is, why are we focusing so much on pre-diabetic or diabetic? Okay, the thing is, if a person is pre-diabetic, the modalities of treatment are different. Number one, the thing is dietary modification, diet, okay, and number two, lifestyle. So tell me one thing that should be avoided in diet. What is that?
Too much of sugar.
Yes, too much of sugar. So raw sugar or raw carbohydrates should be cut down as much as possible. Patient should have focus on protein or fiber rich diet, leafy vegetables, okay, salads, okay. And what is the lifestyle modification that should be done?
Exercise.
Yes, regular low grade isometric exercise, very important. I know physiology you have been taught. There are 2 types of muscle contraction, isotonic and isometric. Please revise that, what is isometric and what is isotonic. One, a force remains constant, another the muscle length, spindle fiber length remains constant. So regular low grade isometric exercise, that what we call cardio. Okay, not that you go to gym one day and you get a six pack. Definitely if you get a six pack, your blood glucose level is already low, otherwise you won't get cuts, okay. But if you stop that, your blood glucose level will be back to normal. So there is no point in doing a bout of exercise and then quitting. Regular low grade isometric exercise. So walking, cycling, swimming, these three are extremely helpful isometric exercise and extremely helpful cardio that will help to cut down the blood glucose level. And it has been shown, mainly we are dealing with type 2 diabetes adult patients over here. They also enhance the secretion of insulin from the pancreas. Now, how many of you believe in pranayam? Ramdev Baba?
Sir,
कितने लोग रामदेव बाबा में बिलीव करते हो? कपालभाति, अनुलोम विलोम.
no, sir.
What do you think, that is effective or not?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Yoga with it.
Yes, yoga is effective. You see, whatever you are doing respiratory exercise. Okay, so there are many diseases, okay, which have been controversially cured. Cancer has been cured, etc. I cannot comment on that. But two diseases. Number one, any disease related to ENT or sinusitis, chronic sinusitis, and number two, diabetes, is immensely helped by regular yoga. Okay, because we are doing an isometric exercise, regular low grade repeated contraction of either respiratory muscles, intercostal muscles, abdominal muscles, that Kapalbhati and Anulom Vilom, that will really help. Okay, so definitely you can prescribe or recommend the patient to do yoga, diet modification and lifestyle modification, mainly to cut down the level of blood glucose. However, if the value is above 126 or above 200, there is no point in only doing this. Definitely these will continue, these are a must, plus patient will have medications. Number one medication of choice is insulin. Insulin is given in divided doses. So depending on the amount of blood glucose, insulin, the total amount of insulin is calculated as per body weight and age, and it is divided in 1/3. You can divide it in before breakfast, before lunch and before dinner, and often it is divided in 2 doses, before breakfast and before dinner. Okay, and those doses also need to be titrated, because if you give an excess dose, there will be morning hypoglycemia, that is known as Dawn and Somogyi phenomena. It will be taught, everything will be taught in detail in pharmacology, and I think in physiology also. If you want to score very good honors marks, you need to know these two phenomena. One is Dawn phenomena and one is Somogyi phenomena. Both have they been taught in physiology? Dawn and Somogyi?
No, sir.
No sir, so I give you homework. Okay, just look it up and let me know what is Dawn phenomena and what is Somogyi phenomena. Both are very easy, both are related to blood glucose and both are related to hypoglycemia only. Right? So, you see, when you diagnose a patient of diabetes and when he or she has got values above cutoff level, medication is a must along with all these lifestyle changes. Now, there is a thing called random blood glucose level or RBS. So, what is RBS? Often a patient will land up in your emergency with a, maybe he or she is unconscious with a very bad wound, okay, and for which you need to do surgery, right? So, without knowing blood glucose level, you cannot approach any patient. Of course, you will manage it, but in the back of your mind, you should have an idea what is the blood glucose level. So, a random blood glucose level is a must. This investigation is very important. RBS. Okay, RBS, that is random blood sugar or random blood glucose. Why I tell you sugar? Because the method that uses that tests capillary blood tests actually all the blood sugars. Okay, so it is RBS. Okay, so there is something called glucometer. Most of you have seen it as a machine. You need to enter a strip and then you need to prick your finger with lancet and then one drop of blood and you just touch it and then a digital reading comes up. Okay, I hope you have seen glucometer. So that is a must in emergency. Why? Number one condition you should rule out in case of an unconscious patient is hypoglycemia. Hypoglycemia is the number one differential diagnosis that you should rule out before touching any unconscious patient. If he or she is having hypoglycemia, number one, administration of glucose will heal up the patient magically. He or she will regain his or her senses, And number 2, if a patient is hypoglycemic but you just, that diagnosis goes off your mind and you keep on treating him for stroke and myocardial infarction, patient will ultimately die. So remember, unconscious patient, first thing, RBS, hypoglycemia. If blood glucose level is low, immediate give 25% dextrose. Dextrose or D-glucose is available in various strengths. 5% that is given as a routine saline, 10% that is given in post-operative, because during a long stretch of operation, blood glucose levels actually falls because patient is already prepared like that way so that patient doesn't eat anything, because you know what happens during anesthesia. So we tell it NPM. NPM is nothing per mouth. So whenever you prepare a patient for OT, this is something called pre-operative advice, and we always write NPM. If you give advice the last night, you write NPM CM, that is nothing per mouth coming morning. So what happens, in the morning patient will not be given any oral food and he or she will be shifted to the oral table, mainly because during anesthesia, if there is food in the stomach, he or she will regurgitate that because abdominal pressure increases, the stomach muscles contract during anesthesia, and then food particles may go into the trachea and it will lead to aspiration and death of the patient. So NPM is very, very important. Patient should be fasting before any OT. However, in case of emergency OTs, you don't know the status of fasting. Therefore, this RBS, number 1, gives you a very good idea. And number 2, in case of emergency surgery, there are alternate methods. So, a full stomach patient, suppose he comes with stomach perforation, definitely you need to take a high risk consent that this patient is not fasting from the patient party. If any paraoperative complication happens, the physician and the treating party is not responsible. Unless the patient party signs the high risk consent, you will not proceed for operation. Or if a patient lands up with a full stomach and there is no party, a team decision is taken and all the surgeons will sign high risk consent. So one will certify that, okay, this friend, this colleague is doing surgery on my consent, and other one will also say, we have all agreed to operate this patient based assessing the risk benefit ratio. Okay, I am going off topic, but those are very important. So 5% routine saline, 10% post-op, and 25% dextrose is reserved for this thing, an unconscious hypoglycemic patient or an insulin overdose. Most of the time, the ward sisters, they mess up the insulin dose because insulin syringe is a very narrow and small bore syringe. Even 1 unit extra can lead to devastating consequences. So if you suspect hypoglycemia right after an insulin dose, we give 25% dextrose. Okay, so hypoglycemia is very, very, very important. Now, what we are talking about is RBS. So number 1 issue is hypoglycemia, but the number 2, so most of the patient who will land up in your outdoor or emergency, mostly outdoors, will not be unconscious. Okay, only a few handful of patients are unconscious, most are conscious. So you need to order a blood glucose value, that is random blood glucose. If we do by glucometer, it is RBS. If we order the random blood sample to be tested in lab, that becomes random blood glucose, RBG. And there is a cutoff value for random blood glucose, above which we will always term diabetic. Now this is your question. Tell me, what is the value of random blood glucose above which we will term the patient diabetic? What?
200.
Right, absolutely right. So we will always consider a patient to be in fed state. So RBS above 200 mg per dl is always diabetic unless proved otherwise. So PPBG and RBG both above 200 is diabetic. So this is all about the diagnostic criteria, the cutoff values, the level of HbA1c, and why we need to know whether the patient is pre-diabetic or diabetic. Okay, next we have got time, so we will be discussing the few features of diabetes mellitus. बार बार खाना खाता है से भी, वो तो हम बार बार हाजमोला भी खा सकते हैं, दैट इज नॉट पॉलीफेजिया. ओके, बहुत ज्यादा खाना खाता है, ओके, रिपीटेडली मोर एंड मोर, ठूस ठूस के खाएगा, दैट इज पॉलीफेजिया. सो व्हाट एक्चुअली हैपेंस, you know, there is something called satiety center in hypothalamus. This will be taught in physiology if it has not been taught already. And there is a hunger center, right? Now both of them are triggered by blood glucose. So what happens actually? Hunger center controls satiety center. Okay, and the value of blood glucose actually influences hunger center. So in reality, what happens when we are hungry? Okay, hunger center will activate the satiety center and it will tell us to eat more and more. We need food, right? So now when we eat food, blood glucose level rises, okay, and it will signal the hunger center that fine, now we are done, and then the hunger center will cut off the satiety center. So satiety center is actually controlled by the activity of hunger center, and hunger center is controlled by the activity of glucose. This is the normal physiology. However, in diabetes, the main pathology is the blood glucose level is actually very high. However, the glucose cannot enter the cell due to number one, lack of insulin activity, or number two, decreased sensitivity to insulin receptors. So glucose is actually very high, but the glucose cannot function properly. Okay, this is the pathology of diabetes. So if we test blood glucose, the extracellular glucose are very high, but glucose is not doing its normal activity. So hunger center cannot sense that there is excess blood glucose, so it cannot shut off satiety center. So in spite blood glucose level is very high, satiety center should have shut down, but it continues to send the trigger to the stomach and the person is always hungry. So remember, often we give blame to the patient that you cannot control your greed for sweet. कभी भी मिठाई देखा तो खाना चालू कर दिया, मालूम है डायबिटीज फिर भी खा रहे हो. This is not the fault of the patient. This is normal physiology. You will not understand or know it unless you have it. Patient simply cannot control if they see food because he's hungry. This is the main reason why polyphagia happens in diabetes. Okay, so polyphagia. Next is polydipsia. What is polydipsia? Yes, increased thirst. Whoever said increased thirst, you all are right. So बहुत पानी भी पीता है patient. Same way, the thirst center, the hunger center controls both thirst and satiety center. You know, while we have food, the same mechanism, the cephalic phase, etc. We have an urge to eat food. We also have an urge to eat water. Of course, the thirst center is also triggered by electrolyte imbalance, by dehydration, other factors, but glucose is a very important trigger of thirst center. So both of them are defective. Since hunger center is defective or hunger center cannot be activated, it cannot deactivate both satiety and thirst center. So patient not only will eat too much food, patient will eat or drink too much of water. Patient will drink too much water, that is known as compulsive water drinking. Patient, the thirst is never quenched, right? Next is polyuria. What is polyuria?
Increase in the
Right, absolutely. बार बार पिएगा तो निकलेगा ना. So number one, there is osmotic dilution of water due to excess blood glucose and polyol pathway, etc. Those are there, but mainly due to increased volume of intake, there will be increased volume of output. So polyphagia, polydipsia and polyuria, and the last one is polyneuropathy. All the nerves will be damaged. So there will be a heel ulcer, there will be pain, there will be damage to the retina, there will be damage to the kidney, mainly because of nerve damage. And these nerves will ultimately also damage the end arteries. Okay, so in diabetes there will be something called gangrene, G-A-N-G-R-E-N-E. Have you any idea what is gangrene? So देखो, गैंग्रीन मतलब कोई सड़ जाना. ओके, तुम अशुद्ध हो, सड़ चुके हो. लिटरली दैट थिंग हैपेंस. सो यू सी दिस डिजीज or an wound which will not heal, which will never heal on its own. नंबर वन ट्रीटमेंट, इवन इफ यू सी, यू विल सी मेनी टाइप ऑफ वुंड, ऐसे वुंड भर भर के आएगा इन आउटडोर, in emergency. And first of all, if you are attending this patient in day one, most of you will have a tendency to vomit, because not only it looks bad, it smells bad, pus comes out all day. So see, it will basically become dry and desiccated. This is the final outcome of a diabetic patient. Just imagine, only by high blood glucose this will happen. Why? Because of the nerve damage. The area cannot sense that there is pain, and there will be assault, there will be increased infection. High blood glucose is a food for bacteria. Number 3, what happens? The blood vessels, okay, the end arteries, they also get damaged, okay, vasa nervosum, they get damaged, and ultimately the blood vessel get damaged, and all of them, the complication happens due to polyneuropathies. Polyneuropathy means problem in nerves all over the body, and this is just one complication of diabetes. And believe me, the organs that are at harm the most, number 1 is kidney. Anyway, so number 1 kidney, and number 2 eye. Okay, diabetes, high blood glucose will lead to blindness. So number 1 kidney, it will lead to chronic renal failure or renal failure. Ultimately the patient will have high creatinine. If diabetes is not controlled, number 1 disease will be kidney failure, and patient will end up in dialysis. And once dialysis starts, there is only 2 ways. Number 1 renal transplant, and number 2 death. Okay, so eyes, so retinopathy and cataract, very common in case of diabetic complication. And number 3, end artery, gangrene, etc. Okay, damage to the nerves. So we see that diabetes is actually a complication. Now there are few mechanisms by which this normal blood glucose level is controlled in the body, right? So what are those mechanisms? Can you tell me what hormone increases blood glucose level?
glycogen.
Hormone, glycogen nahi.
Corticoids.
What hormone decreases blood glucose level?
Insulin.
Right. Dekho, so the one that increases blood glucose level are many. Glucagon, okay, not glycogen, glucagon, TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone, or thyroid hormone, actually thyroxine, not TSH, thyroxine, steroid, that is glucocorticoid, right, absolutely right, growth hormone, ACTH, ये सब blood glucose बढ़ाएगा, they will increase blood glucose level. That is why they are known as hyperglycemic hormone or emergency hormone. Remember, low blood glucose is an emergency. Okay, patient, if suddenly low blood glucose happens, patient will simply fall and he will be unconscious, and he may be run over, he may be riding a car and he may be unconscious and he may face an accident. So the emergency, these are emergency hormones that are activated. So there are many emergency hormones. If one fails, other one will be activated to shoot up the blood glucose level. However, high blood glucose level will also lead to unconsciousness. There is a disease known as diabetic ketoacidosis, okay, hyperosmolar non-ketotic coma, HONK. Hyperosmolar non-ketotic coma means patient will have very high blood glucose, patient will be in coma, but there will be no ketone bodies. So these are 2 spectrums, right? So what happens? However, if blood glucose level increases, this will not be extremely harmful in one day. Day after day, this thing will end up in problems. So there is only one hormone that lowers blood glucose level, that is insulin. Oh, rest in peace my handwriting. Okay, that is insulin. So this is good for the body, okay, that in any problem there are multiple players who will shoot up blood glucose, but that is another problem for the body, that if any problem happens to this one player, the blood glucose level cannot be lowered at all, right? So insulin is the only player that lowers blood glucose level. So remember, if we are considering the blood glucose homeostasis, so what happens? Glucose, if it rises, it leads to secretion of insulin, that will lead to ultimately glucose level lowering, okay, and that it will lead to secretion of glucagon, and that will again rise to increase in blood glucose level. So fine, this is very easy to understand. Insulin will lower and glucagon will shoot it up. However, what are the processes? What are the biochemical processes that actually does all this? So you already know the anabolic processes. Just remember, this screen is very important. So you can write with me, the anabolic processes will lower blood glucose, and they are all triggered by insulin. So insulin is an anabolic hormone. And the catabolic, catabolic, the catabolic processes will increase blood glucose, and they are all triggered by glucagon. I am writing glucagon, there are other which play the same role as glucagon, so growth hormone for example. So anabolic processes are triggered by insulin and catabolic processes are triggered by glucagon. Now there is another very key step, that is the mechanism of action. Always remember, insulin acts by dephosphorylation and glucagon acts via phosphorylation. Okay, so we have a very important information over here, that is all the anabolic enzymes are active in dephosphorylated form, and all the catabolic enzymes are activated in phosphorylated form. Now you open your carbohydrate metabolism chapter, okay, and you can literally, if you are having problem in remembering, okay, what is the active form of this enzyme, what is the active form of that enzyme, this will certainly help you. So let me write the anabolic processes. The anabolic processes are glycolysis and glycogenesis, that is synthesis of glycogen, okay. And what are the catabolic processes? Neoglucogenesis or gluconeogenesis, gluconeo and glycogenolysis. So the rate limiting enzymes of these will corroborate to this state. For example, even if you forgot, now you know that one enzyme of glycogenesis or synthesis of glycogen is glycogen synthase enzyme, okay. So tell me, glycogen synthase enzyme will be activated in which form? Glycogen synthase is an anabolic enzyme. It is helped by insulin. So glycogen synthase, the active form is dephosphorylated form and the inactivated form is phosphorylated form. Whereas the enzyme glycogen phosphorylase, this is the enzyme of glycogenolysis, the glycogen को तोड़ के जिसको glucose बनाएगा, है ना. So glycogen phosphorylase, the active form being a catabolic enzyme, is phosphorylated form. This is true for all enzymes, even PFK1, phosphofructokinase 1. Okay, this is an enzyme of glycolysis. Glycolysis is an anabolic pathway. Anabolic pathways are helped by insulin. So that is active in dephosphorylated form. So very important Viva question. I have gone to carbohydrate metabolism kind of revision. So if you are asked, tell me this enzyme is active in phosphorylated or dephosphorylated form, you can take 1 minute from your teacher. Just calm down your mind, first judge whether glucose is increasing or glucose is decreasing with the help of this enzyme. If glucose is increasing, this is a catabolic enzyme, it will be triggered by glucagon, it is active in phosphorylated form. Okay. So I think this is enough for you to know about diabetes. You know the cutoff values, you know the symptoms, you know the diagnosis, you know some treatment. Okay, I haven't discussed about treatment because you don't need to know right now before you start pharmacology. And you know about the homeostasis or the maintenance of normal levels of glucose, as well as what enzymes remain in phosphorylated and dephosphorylated form. Okay, so very important, just take a note of this entire class and prepare your own note regarding a question regarding glucose homeostasis and also cutoff values of diabetes, which are very important for you for Viva. Okay, so that's it for today. 7 minutes left, so you can ask any queries or question that you are having right now. Bolo, what question?
सर आपने बोला था वॉकिंग साइकिलिंग और स्विमिंग बेस्ट एक्सरसाइजेज हैं,
हाँ,
रनिंग क्यों नहीं?
क्या क्या क्या?
रनिंग क्यों नहीं सर?
लो ग्रेड एक्सरसाइज, ऑफ कोर्स रनिंग तो होगा ही. तुम स्विमिंग में फ्री स्टाइल के बदले में अगर बटरफ्लाई करोगे तो दैट विल बी बेटर. ऑफ कोर्स रनिंग इज अ वेरी गुड एक्सरसाइज, बट नॉट ऑल ऑफ देम, ऑल ऑफ यू विल हैव प्रोविजन टू रन. जनरली जो लोग डायबिटीज के लिए तुम्हारे चेंबर में आएंगे, दे विल बी वेरी लीन एंड थिन एंड दे विल बी वेरी हेल्दी, मतलब फिट लुकिंग. ओके, आई एम जोकिंग, सब मोटे भैंस होंगे. Don't tell me otherwise. We all respect our patients, but they look like that. Okay, type 2 diabetes patient, if they are unaware about their health, are mostly like that. You cannot claim them कि treadmill को एकदम 8 पे डालिए and दौड़िए, because the patient will ultimately may have a cardiac insufficiency. So of course the patient will start from low grade walking and धीरे धीरे running is recommended. So of course walking, running, swimming and you know what. Next, बोलो और कोई question है?
सर ये जो लास्ट में बताए ये एनाबॉलिक एंजाइम्स किस फॉर्म में एक्टिवेटेड है, इसको एक बार फिर से बता दीजिए.
देखो, एनाबॉलिक एंजाइम्स will be activated by insulin and will be activated in dephosphorylated form. उल्टा है, एक रिमेंबर करो दूसरा हो जाएगा. कैटाबॉलिक एंजाइम्स आर एक्टिवेटेड बाय ग्लूकागॉन एंड दे विल बी एक्टिवेटेड इन फॉस्फोराइलेटेड फॉर्म. कैटाबॉलिक एंजाइम से ग्लूकोज लेवल बढ़ता है एंड एनाबॉलिक एंजाइम से ग्लूकोज लेवल कम होता है. एग्जांपल देख लो, ग्लाइकोलिसिस. ग्लाइकोलिसिस कन्वर्ट्स ग्लूकोज टू पाइरुवेट, मतलब ज्यादा ग्लाइकोलिसिस अगर हुआ तो ग्लूकोज लेवल विल डिक्रीज. एंड ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस मतलब उसका उल्टा में क्या होगा, वी विल कन्वर्ट अदर सबस्ट्रेट्स टू ग्लूकोज. सो ग्लूकोनियोजेनेसिस इज अ कैटाबॉलिक पाथवे. सो एन एग्जांपल PFK1 जो मैं दिया, PFK1 इज एन एग्जांपल ऑफ anabolic enzyme that will be activated in dephosphorylated form, and an enzyme मान लो phosphoenol pyruvate carboxykinase, that is an enzyme of gluconeogenesis, catabolic enzyme है, that will be activated in phosphorylated form. सारा enzyme ऐसे ही होगा. book में you can go and you can check individual chapter whether whatever is discussed is right or wrong. And the most important way you can remember is एक chart बनाना. This enzyme is activated in phosphorylated and ये enzyme is activated in dephosphorylated. एक flow chart बनाओगे तो अच्छे से याद रहेगा. फिर भी confusion का chance अगर रट्टा मारोगे तो, if the concept is clear then it will be easier for you to remember. Next, बोलो, anything more? 5 minutes. You're telling, say patient.
Sir, this is I've heard
हाँ हाँ हाँ
diabetic patient होता है,
हाँ हाँ
वो बहुत small amount of alcohol is allowed.
हाँ, एकदम गलत है, टोटली रॉन्ग. आज से भूल जाओ जो सुना था, ठीक है. अल्कोहल, नाउ द लेटेस्ट हाइपोथेसिस इज अल्कोहल इन ऑल डोजेज आर हार्मफुल. सो पहले सुना था छोटा छोटा 1 चम्मच करके रोज खाओगे तो स्किन ग्लो करेगा. यस, डेफिनेटली देयर आर गुड इफेक्ट्स ऑफ अल्कोहल, बट व्हाट हैपेंस इज the negative effects of alcohol will lead to something called metabolic syndrome. So obesity, diabetes and insulin resistance, ये तीनों मिला के diabetes will be worsened only. So in case of diabetes patient, alcohol is a strict no. Absolutely not.
So because alcohol converts sugar in fat.
कुछ फायदा नहीं उससे. Absolutely wrong. Because alcohol will ultimately trigger, or alcohol is an arousal response, मतलब that will create a catabolic scenario. So ये सारा hormones will be activated, glucagon and all the ACTH growth hormone. तो उससे ultimately there will be hyperglycemia and diabetes will ultimately be worsened. Alcohol तो enzyme नहीं है ना, alcohol is a compound. How can it catalyze a reaction? अल्कोहल का ओनली एक ही रिएक्शन होता है, दैट इज कन्वर्टेड बाय अल्कोहल डिहाइड्रोजनेस टू एल्डिहाइड. उससे ज्यादा कुछ नहीं होता है. बट प्लीज डोंट ट्राई इट एट होम, ठीक है. ऐसा नहीं है कि मतलब खा के देखोगे. देयर हैव बीन स्टडीज इन विच ये तुमने क्यों सुना? इफ यू हैव हर्ड फ्रॉम एनी रिसर्च पेपर्स, द थिंग इज देयर आर few experiments in rat model in which there is a variety of rat called Sprague Dawley. ओके, SPRAGUE, Sprague Dawley rats. दो उन लोग, वो सारे रैट को there is an injection. See, you have asked a question which is out of syllabus, that is why I am also discussing streptozotocin. बाकी सब you don't need to hear this. So streptozotocin बोल के एक इंजेक्शन है, वो Sprague Dawley रैट को हम लोग streptozotocin इंजेक्शन देंगे तो उसका पैनक्रियास डिस्ट्रॉय हो जाता है. So that creates a diabetic model. Okay, so that mimics a diabetes patient. तो वो रैट का ब्लड ग्लूकोज लेवल में डिक्रीज आया है इन स्मॉल डोज ऑफ अल्कोहल, ऑन इंजेक्शन ऑफ स्मॉल डोज ऑफ अल्कोहल. So that was a research paper that raised a question whether alcohol can have beneficial effects on diabetes, but that has not been reproduced in any human level data. ठीक है ना, तो ये रिसर्च लेवल पे ही है. So you must not tell the examiner, सर थोड़ा पी लेंगे तो डायबिटीज खत्म हो जाएगा, तो ultimately you have a bad prognosis in exam. समझे ना? हाँ, patient will live by his pancreas but die by his liver. ठीक है ना? Anyway, so चलो, time is up. Thank you all. And I will tell you one more thing. Meeting की end हो गया? हाँ, देखो, there is one more thing that I need to tell you. You just look now into the WhatsApp group. ठीक है? That is our student unofficial WhatsApp group. Over there, I have given you a homework. Okay, you can see there is a chart, simply a table. दिख रहा है ना, position 1, position 2. Can you see?
Sir.
Yeah. So see, this is the homework for your next class. Next class will be taken by new teacher, but this is the homework that she asked me since no other faculty is in a part of the students group. Your job, your homework is to write which alphabet occurs most commonly in which position. I am giving an example. In position 5, the option E is occurring most frequently, right? So you just create an answer. Before the next class starts, please write this way: position 1, this alphabet; position 2, this alphabet. So this is your homework. Each and everybody, वो lesson prepare करो, and we'll be seeing you with the next class on transcription. Okay? So till then, bye and take care.